Legacy Project. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, I'd like to welcome you all here tonight. Some of you have come from outside of the capital, outside of London, to be here for the launch of the Legacy Project, which we're really excited about, which is aiming to celebrate the 75th anniversary of Pakistan's independence in a way that we hope will resonate for years to come. Tonight's actually the culmination of 6 months of incredibly hard work when 6 months ago several British Pakistani organisations got together with key members of the community up and down the country to discuss planning something exciting and significant for the 75th anniversary. And as much as galas and dinner parties are wonderful and fun and musical events, they decided a number of key points that they wanted to make sure would happen as a result of the Legacy Project. Firstly, that our celebrations would be inclusive of all British Pakistanis, regardless of age, gender, religion, class or location, so the whole of the UK, and that it would leave behind a positive and long-term impact. I don't know if you know, but British Pakistanis make up the second largest international community of Pakistanis in the world. That came as a surprise to me. And the Legacy Project is about creating a memorable and sustainable experience. So we've invited you all here tonight to share how we plan to do that with the Legacy Project. And I say we because it's about all of us. It might be set up by a number of organisations, but it's how we can all be a part of the Legacy Project. So I'm including myself in that tonight. During the course of the evening, we'll be hearing from those involved in the planning and the development of the project, so they can share details about their work and how you can support us in a community of building a movement like never before. So, without further ado, I'd like to invite our first speaker, His Excellency Mr. 𝐏𝐚𝐤𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐧 Khan, High Commissioner of Pakistan to the United Kingdom.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good evening. Both literally and metaphorically, let me extend to you all a very warm welcome at the Pakistan High Commission. What a great pleasure to see so many representatives of the British Pakistan community working together with one objective, under one roof, and on one platform. As we celebrate 75 years of nationhood, 75 years of our friendship with the UK, and 70 years of the reign of Her Majesty the Queen, we not only remind ourselves of the richness of our association with this beautiful and hospitable country, but also look to what the future holds. After serving Pakistan for 36 years, I often wonder about what my legacy would be. And when I think about my legacy, I invariably end up asking myself, what will I leave behind for my children and their children? What kind of Pakistan, what kind of world will we leave for them? I also wonder if this would be enough. I find myself wondering about this because the world is at a point of inflection. You don't even need words to describe what's happening around. It is enough that you feel. Do you feel the heat in your eyes? Climate is changing. Our fragile planet is unwell. Geopolitics is back. And the greed and ambition of a few seem to be destroying the hopes of hopes and happiness of millions. So in these challenging times, what will be our legacy? Ladies and gentlemen, this legacy project is a reminder of where we have been, where we are, and where we wish to go. A few months ago, some friends, led by 𝐴𝐴, comprising nearly all the leading Pakistani community organizations based or operating in the UK, got together to brainstorm on what would be the best way to celebrate the landmark in a befitting manner. After extensive deliberation, we are here today to witness the launch of the legacy project. I will not delve into the details of what it is about. I will leave it to the speakers to follow me. But let me commend you all for taking upon yourself the task of planting 7,500 saplings across the UK in support of Her Majesty's Green Canopy initiative to mitigate climate change. It is our endeavour, entirely owned and driven by the British Pakistani community, and an articulation of solidarity with the people of the UK and our affection for them. The High Commission's role has been to be an enabler, facilitator and supporter. As you have led from the front, we have been happy to cheer you on. It's also an uswa hasana, a beautiful deed that our faith and culture lays so much emphasis on, and it reflects in so many ways the best of our nation, our people, our ethos and our traditions. My hope is that the sapling you sow will be the start of something bigger and broader and more enduring. This project should be a platform to showcase the achievements of British Pakistanis. It should encourage more people to come forward with more ideas to project the true picture of Pakistan, its art and culture, its inner beauty, and the true meaning of being a Pakistani. Distinguished guests, Pakistan is proud of its sons and daughters who are living abroad. Your sacrifices and contributions are significant and vital for Pakistan's prosperity. The Legacy Project celebrates as well as recognizes the constructive contribution of British Pakistanis in the economic, social and political life of the UK and Pakistan over the past 75 years. As the High Commissioner of Pakistan, I take great pride in your achievement. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by saying that today, more than ever before, we need the British Pakistani community to play its important role of bridge builder, seeking new avenues of broadening and deepening our bilateral relations with the UK. The Executive Committee of the Legacy Project and my friend Mr. 𝐴𝐴 deserves our appreciation and support for conceiving this initiative and for their hard work in making this day possible. Many thanks also to the Green Canopy, the National Trust, and many other organizations who have lent their valuable support for this endeavor. As you roll out your beautiful deed, I wish all involved complete success. Thank you so much.
So we'll move swiftly on to our next speaker, Dr. Suhail Jagdai, who is chairperson of the World Congress of Overseas Pakistanis. I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of our speakers in case you don't know them. So he's also a surgeon, and he's led pioneering work in telehealth industry, which is crucial, of course, for countries like Pakistan. He's most importantly chair of the executive committee at the British Pakistan Foundation. And he's going to tell us a bit more about the Legacy Project.
Thank you, Saima, for a very elaborate introduction. So can I share a small clip? Because I think it's important to say gratitude to people who have helped us, organizations of Pakistani origin, working in Britain, working for a common cause, but in different platforms. So let's say a small tribute to how it started and where we are today. Please. So this all started with an intent to reach somewhere and to create a legacy. And perhaps you can see the sign. Look at the legacy word. It has a lot of creativity packed. So the idea, the concentration, the focus, the intent, the effort, all that is behind what we're doing today. The organizations of Pakistani origin, whether medical, whether business, whether legal, professional, they're all with us. And can I just introduce this project by 3 slides where we can tell you what this is about. The first slide, you may not be able to see it, neither can I from here. But I can explain that Pakistan's map, Britain's map, they make 2 sides of a tree. And if you remember your childhood, let me take you back a minute. We always have a memory somewhere, and you may remember a tree in your house, you may remember a tree in your school. So we thought planting a tree, leaving a legacy could be one thing we can do. And it matches well with the theme of the Queen's Canopy project. The National Trust is here today, and we're very thankful that they have synced with us on this ideology. And they're a well-known charity. We want to work with you. We want to plant 7,500 trees to celebrate 75 years of Pakistan independence. And that goes well in sync with the Queen's 70 years of reign. So I think this matches well. That project, there will be trees planted, saplings planted in 3 locations in UK. That will be in the south of England, in West Sussex. Then you have other places like Wellington, and then there is also near the Peak Districts. There are 14 different species available, 14 different species, so you can even choose. And if you remember, one tree you plant will have 1 ton of carbon dioxide swapped for good oxygen in 1 year life, in the life of the tree. And that will be your contribution to the environment, to the planet. We live happily. And we want to live happily ever after. So the next slide, please. So that is the legacy project. And as you can see that there are 3 different locations: Wellington, Peak Districts, and West Sussex. You can choose a location close to your home, and that is something you can tell your kids as well, that how trees can be associated with childhood memory. Next one, please. So we didn't stop there. We thought that let's do something more for everyone. So we have created a merchandise for Legacy Project, the flags, the Pakistani flags, which can be bought, and the money can be going to charity projects. Those flags can be waved on 14th of August outside your home. The spirit is that Pakistan is something very close to our heart. The patriotism is a spirit we all carry. It's not the physical boundary which patriotism protects. It's the virtual boundary, the imagery, the very concept of Pakistan, the very positive image of Pakistan we want to protect. So that particular flag waving thing should go on social media of people. They can make small selfies, they can wave flags, and literally put on the social media so that we can all see how much close this project is to us. That's the second one. Then you have a third one. I think you will all love it, chai parties. We do it anyway. But let's do it with the intent to celebrate Pakistan's 75 years. So you can have a little theme of merchandise, or maybe have a little writing on the cake, 75 years of Pakistan. Take a selfie, put it on social media, and that is, you stamp it. You put a stamp of time, and that's going to stay there forever. So I believe this is something we can contribute. It doesn't cost much, but it actually means a lot. So this is another thing. Can we go to the next slide? So this is what we are doing, but there are lots of other things happening. I just want to mention 3 significant events which are going to take place very soon. We are not directly sponsoring or involved with that, but we want to support them. And Asif 𝐿𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐢𝐬𝐡 has been brilliant. He would call me at 12 midnight and say, "Hey, Dr. What's happening?" So he's the driving force behind this all. And Salman Madni, Zohra Muazzam, the emails, literally the inbox with thoughtful emails. I support their work. So that is something which is happening outside us, but we support that. On the 13th of August, Association of Pakistani Physicians and Surgeons is celebrating 75 years of Pakistan independence in Telford at Excellence in Midlands. On 14th of August, Pakistan Achievement Awards by 𝐿𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐢𝐬𝐡 by Samara Productions. And then we have 10th of September, we have invited Pakistan Society for Internal Medicine, the largest body of Pakistan's medicine, and all the medical organizations will be doing a public medical seminar. And World Congress of Overseas Pakistanis will be hosting that at the Royal College on the 10th of September. And we'll be inviting Pakistan High Commissioner and OT there as well. So these are the things which are happening, we support them, and we want to get involved as the chair committee. So before I go, and I want to conclude on one thing, that the bigger the diaspora, the bigger the responsibility. 1.4 million people are not here by chance. They're here for a purpose. And the purpose is not to contribute only to this country, but to also give it to the country of origin. Well, we are very well positioned, and I can qualify that, because we've gone through a stage of hardship. We've gone through so much work. We've seen experiences of people living in Pakistan don't go through that. And that experience, we can give part of that back to Pakistan and reflect that as a non-official ambassador in UK. Our High Commissioner is doing his job very well. But we have a responsibility. Our every interaction is a presentation. Whether it's inside, whether it's outside. And remember, the media is not so immigrant friendly. Let me be blunt. There's no counter narrative. All the positive things are going under the carpet, and the bad things are coming out selectively. So we need to dilute it and defend it. So do share the pictures of your success, your lifestyles.
So now we're going to hear from a key partner in the Legacy project, from the National Trust. Celia Richardson is Director of Communications and Marketing with the National Trust, and when we asked for a bio from our speakers, Celia said that she loves stories and worries about the natural environment, which is why she's now devoted to the subjects of heritage and conservation. The British Pakistan Foundation is delighted to be partnering with the National Trust to create this legacy for British Pakistanis alongside a well-established British organisation. Can I ask Celia to join us on stage?
Good evening, distinguished guests. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm absolutely delighted to be here speaking to you tonight on behalf of the National Trust, and we're absolutely honoured to be working in partnership with the British Pakistan Foundation and the Queen's Green Canopy. Delighted and very grateful. The National Trust, as you've heard, is a quite well-known UK charity, founded 127 years ago by 3 people, among them Octavia Hill, the well-known London social reformer. Hill spoke of the need for space, the need for air, the need for the sight of sky and of things growing. She said these are human needs common to all men. The National Trust is often these days very well associated in the public mind with country houses but the first places we acquired were green spaces and many, many trees. We currently look after a lot of precious trees, among them Isaac Newton's famous apple tree, where if you visit at the right time of year, you can still have an apple pie made from the tree apples. And we employ a number of tree experts who are passionate about the way that trees are, the way that they behave, the way that they connect to each other, the way that they speak to each other apparently, and the way that they connect us around the world in the way that ecosystems work. So we're absolutely delighted to be here tonight, and I want to thank you all for supporting this project, for being tree planting partners. Tree planting partners are urgently needed, for reasons I'll speak about in a moment. The Legacy Project that we've heard about to mark the 75th anniversary of Pakistan's independence promotes unity and the importance of leaving a legacy for future generations, as we've heard. There can be few more important legacies than trees. The National Trust is an organisation concerned primarily with legacy and unity. Everything in our care is about preservation, and it's about ownership on behalf of everyone, the entire nation. From the books, paintings and exquisite objects in the National Trust care that belong to everyone and teach us about the heritage of Pakistan, to the Himalayan cedars that are thriving on our land across the UK, representing the national tree of Pakistan, it belongs to everyone forever. For our own anniversary in 2020, it was 125 years since the Trust's founding. We set out to plant 20 million trees in 10 years. It's partnerships like this that get those trees in the ground. The National Trust cannot possibly achieve that many trees on its own. And I suppose, thinking about 7,500, there's no way that this partnership will not result in more than 7,500 trees being planted. Someone plants a tree, they're not just planting a tree in the ground, it's planted in their minds and in their hearts. And we know whenever someone plants a tree, they go on usually to plant another tree. They go on to encourage other people to plant trees. Before you know it, instead of giving flowers or for Christmas, for birthdays, to make the passing of loved ones, they're planting trees. It's a habit that does catch on. So absolutely wonderful that you've chosen tree planting as such an important part of your legacy project. The older I get, the more I'm drawn to the ancient Greek saying, which is that a society grows great when old men plant trees in shade they shall never sit. Today in London, in the face of what for London is hugely unusual, quite frightening weather, we can see the trees keeping people safe. We can see people taking shelter under the trees. We're finding shelter under trees ourselves. It's not just us, it's not just the people. The birds are safer in the trees. The buildings are safer on the roads where there are trees. There is tree poverty in London, and that's one of the things we've got to address in cities across the UK. Part of our 20 million trees is about getting those into urban areas where there are not enough trees, and that has very serious implications. So trees, they're the coolest things, but they're also vital to our survival. We urgently need more. Climate change is the greatest threat to people, places and wildlife all over the world, the ecosystems that unite us all. 7,500 is a lot, as I've said, and it's just absolutely marvellous that it's so important, and the way I love the way that you've designed this into the materials for the Legacy Project, and people can see how this takes root. So thank you, all of you. It's so important that we're all good ancestors. In another 75 years, the trees that you plant will give shelter in our towns and in our countryside, and others will sit in the shade of those that you planted. So thank you very much, and congratulations on the launch of the partnership.
Love what she said about planting a tree and then it being planted in your heart and your mind, and that's the idea of this, that we then go and tell our friends and family about it, tell everyone we know about it, and hopefully they plant a tree. So it says on my script that I should tell you about the programme, about it needing your support, and anyone across the country can go online. Reminder of the website, it's the legacyproject75.com. There are cards on your seats as well. Don't ignore them, don't throw them away, put them in your back pocket, your wallets and your purses, and keep them. So you can sponsor a tree, or 10 trees, or 100. Salman's written a script, so you better do it. And there isn't actually a limit to how many trees you can plant or sponsor, and we do need a minimum, and we want and we hope for a minimum of 7,500 to mark the 75 years. But of course, if we could do more, how brilliant would that be? So I want to introduce our next speaker now, and it's a representative and the Director of Development at the Queen's Green Canopy, Ruth Evans. Ruth has dedicated much of her career to leading not-for-profit organisations in fundraising, and most recently worked at the Royal Horticultural Society before moving to the Queen's Green Canopy. We are privileged to have her support, the support of the Queen's Green Canopy, and I'd like to invite her on stage to say a few words. Thank you.
Deeply privileged to be here today. A small apology from our Chief Executive, Dan Rex, who is away and would have loved to have been here, but I get the chance instead, which is equally good. Thank you to Salman for reaching out and including the Queen's Green Canopy in this initiative. I mean, much of what's been said before has really brought home to me just what the connection is between your project and why the Queen's Green Canopy was born out. You may or may not know, but a couple of years ago the initiative was put before the Queen. Many thoughts were being had around how the Platinum Jubilee could be celebrated. And one of them was the Queen's Green Canopy, largely because the Queen herself has planted more than 1,500 trees. Strong advocate for nature. And if you go back to the very beginning of her reign, you will see her taking that time to plant trees when others perhaps haven't quite got to the place we've all got to now, seeing the benefits. So enthusiastic response, amazing. The one caveat back to us was that this wasn't just a celebration. What we wanted to do was develop an initiative where anyone could get involved. Communities across the 4 nations have been very important for us. This is not England-centric. And I'm pleased to say that we've had that opportunity to include people literally from John O'Groats right through to the rest of the UK and from Ireland and Wales. Personally, I'm Welsh, so we've got to advocate for more Welsh connections at any point. But nonetheless, that's happened to a huge extent. The community angle for us was always key. We also wanted people to be able to tell us what they've done and tell their own stories. As Celia was saying, anyone who's in horticulture and planting trees, everybody wants to tell you why you planted this, where you planted it, what's its story to you. There's lots of sort of emotional connection. So we have a map. We know that your trees, if they're planted up to Christmas, will be pinned to the QGC map. The benefit for us on that is that when someone pins their tree, they also tell us and give us a picture and tell us who did it. And to some of the comments that have gone before, they're often intergenerational. You will see very young children planting with their grandparents. They're sort of passing on of why this is important. For the future goes right through to getting those youngsters now to want to get out and want to plant more trees. I have to say we couldn't have done any of it without partners. Very, very grateful to the National Trust and many other tree planting charities in the UK, all of whom have enthusiastically supported what we do. You may or may not know, we've had 1 million trees already. I have to say that's been dwarfed by a conversation I had earlier when someone mentioned 1 billion trees, but ignoring that completely. Those 1 million trees are all fabulous. And we hope to have many more into our map in the autumn. But the message I think that's coming through from everyone is that the more we encourage everyone to get out and plant trees, the more we'll make that difference for the future. But equally for us, it was the right tree in the right place too. So while we're often encouraged, we still get calls from, I think someone mentioned the media earlier, but from journalists saying, well, how many have you planted? And what are you doing next? What are your numbers? What are your stats? Fine, fair enough, but for us it's equally been an education too, to say that you've got to plan your tree, you've got to plant your tree, and you've got to protect your tree. So unless you're willing to do that sort of longer term engagement, then to some extent getting that tree in the ground is probably the easiest bit to begin with. It's still making sure it's there and thriving in the years to come. That for us has been really important. So I guess what next? Platinum Jubilee was what it was all about. We're at the end of that at the end of December. But what's we're most enthusiastic about this project is that the legacy of the QGC was embedded from the start. We've always wanted people to carry on. We, as an initiative, we're here for the year, but actually the message is, as Celia said earlier, please plant. Commercial break when our map opens in October. If anyone feels like planting their own tree, please do. But I think it's sort of tell other people why it matters, and I suppose on a day-to-day like today we can't sort of suggest for 1 minute it doesn't. You know, the more trees we have, the more canopy we create, the better we will have it as a future, as a country with nature. So for me, a huge thank you to all of you for thinking of us. I know if Her Majesty were here now, she would say exactly the same, that to have this opportunity to work with you and for us to be chosen is indeed a great honour. So thank you for thinking of us, and please keep planting. Thank you very much.
I'm going to share a bit about my own experience and why trees are so important. In 2018, I filmed about a rainforest preservation project in Brazil, where they're chopping down trees at an extremely fast and dangerous rate. And I learned so much more about how important trees were because they store carbon, they take carbon dioxide out of the air for us, they give us oxygen. They are literally the lungs of this world. And so they are so important for all of us. And then in my time reporting in Pakistan over the last 15, 16 years, I'm going to show my age now, I've done a lot of work on climate, I call it climate action actually, I've stopped calling it climate change, because there's a global warming crisis and we need climate action, and that is why this is so important, to plant the trees. And doing it here in England will really create a wonderful legacy for us as British Pakistanis, to really have a stake of our roots that belong here just as much as they belong to contribute to Pakistan as well. Pakistan will be one of the worst affected countries of climate change, and yet Western or global North nations like the UK, the US and others are the worst polluters. So it's a great time to plant trees here in the UK that will benefit countries all over the world. I'm going to introduce our next speaker now, and a man who often needs no introduction, of course. Many of you will be familiar with him. Shahid Azim, who is an award-winning British Pakistani entrepreneur, philanthropist. He's currently the Deputy Lieutenant of Surrey. Last year he was appointed High Sheriff of Surrey, the first of Pakistan origin in more than 1,000 years. He's best known, of course, as the man who rescued Aldershot Town Football Club, and I'm pleased to welcome him on stage to share his experience of using the power of sports to change the perception of Pakistanis. So, Shahid, will you join us on stage?
Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. It's amazing that everything gets, when you get introduced, it's all about football and not all the other businesses you do. So it's power of sport really, and yeah, I'll tell you that 90% of the football clubs, professional football clubs, are insolvent. Right? So really what happens is the power of sport changes people's minds. So I was quite privileged to play football, family very much in sports, but really it's what people remember me was football and all the other bits I do, so I'm quite pleased with that. But it shows you what happens. And I suppose my own personal experience is that when my father came to England in 64, we came in 69 with my sister. We were the first brown family to live in Guildford. They'd never seen a brown person in their life, I don't think. So, but I couldn't speak English, but what I was good at sports. And what it did do with sport was that it didn't know the language, and there wasn't any barriers to language, so what you could do, you could excel at sports. So I was pretty good with sports, and I loved football, and that was my passion. Also coming in 1970, I was looking at all the Pakistani sports people, and as a Pakistani I was looking at, and some of you quite younger here, but some of the people that really inspired me were the people like sort of the Pakistani cricketers. We had like in the Ireland, Surrey Cricket House, Sarfraz Nawaz, Asif Iqbal, Zahir Abbas, and obviously Imran Khan. So they're sort of the people that inspired me into sport. And I was a second generation of Pakistanis coming here, and I just saw the power of sport. I could do that. And I always used to go and get the newspaper in the morning just to see how they do. We didn't have teletext, we didn't have internet. You just had to wait the next day to see them, just to see how Arsif did. You know, of course, not you Arsif, Labrador cricket, but Arsif Iqbal was spin bowling, or Safar Mars, or Zahir Abbas scoring goals, so, sort of hitting a couple of centuries. So that was really what really inspired me. I suppose also in 1972, that really got me was the Pakistan in the hockey at the Munich. You recall, you know, we got silver medal, dubious decision, but however, we did beat India 2-0 in the semi-final, so that's that gives you a thing. And then in the 80s, you know, in the 80s, you had, in my opinion, and I'm sure if you ask any sports people, the great 𝐏𝐚𝐤𝐢𝐬𝐿, who's never lost 555 matches. Never lost a final. That's like Federer playing Wimbledon 555 times and never losing, right? He won the British Open 10 years on the trot. He was the world champion from 6 times. So great against the sport. 92 World Cup. I was the only Pakistani with about 500 English guys watching it from Australia in a bar at 6 in the morning. So I was very proud of Pakistani like that. And then we won 99. You know, we went to the final. Dreadful at the Lords when we lost, but we did get to the final, and obviously we won a number of things in the ICC trophy. But then in 2004, Athens, Amir Khan went there to represent Great Britain, but he wore a Pakistani sort of shorts with the British flags with him, and the rest is history. He was silver medal, and what he has done, he has produced so many back of his legacy and what he's got in his boxing. What he's created is the next generation of boxers. And on Saturday I'm going to see Hamza Shiraz, and hopefully with the next, he won, so he's 156 in the trial, so hopefully he could be the next world champion. In fact, I'll tell you today, he will be the next champion in 2 years' time, trust me. Passion for me was football. As I said, I played for Aldershot back in 1973, broke my leg, tibia and fibia, and that was in the football career. Didn't have a doctor like you, where you sorted out, but that was my end of it there. But I love going to football, and the club I used to go and watch at Aldershot, went to administration with a debt of £2 million, and I thought, well, let's see if we can save it. And the first person I phoned was this gentleman sitting there. He's my partner in crime. I said, I need about 150,000. I need about 2 million, but you can start with 150. So he said, don't ask me again, but he did give me the money. So I thought, I'd be ever grateful for you for helping out there. But what he did do was actually, the people who read the Sun, I mean, I'm not stereotyping. Okay, the people read that, to see a Pakistani guy to rescue a club, this is all in the media, to actually see a Pakistani guy rescuing it, the Pakistani guy helping it, they just change the perception of people there. So, the reason I'm telling a bit about the history about sports, sport is a great way to do things, and it's sort of good for the body, mind, mental, emotional development, team spirit, and mutual understanding, and it's really creating brotherhood when you play across all over other countries. Sports bring people together and brings nations together. So for me, sport is a big thing. Probably know Nelson Mandela, when he came back, the first thing he did was he had 3 World Cups, cricket, football and rugby. And that changed the perception of South Africa just through sport. So that, so something that we need to do. So my real message to all of you is that we had 75 years of diplomatic culture, relationship with the UK. We're now the 4th generation. My grandchildren, I'm granddad. My grandchildren, they're the 4th generation. Well, what legacy are we leaving them? This is a country that gives you an opportunity that you will probably get a lot of time in your own country. So, but I still want my grandchildren to have the culture, that heritage they're from Pakistani background. And through sports, I think we can bring people together. So really, for my message to everybody really here is that it's not that you're going to be an extreme sports person or world champion. It's getting into local community, getting into local clubs, change the perception of getting involved in different things within the local community. to make a difference in our understanding. So for me, the legacy is actually the next 75 years, how we can change our perception and how we get people more involved in sport. And finally, Celia, sorry, I didn't think of it earlier on, but we've got 7,500 trees in England. I think that a challenge to the trust is if you go and plant 7,500 trees in Pakistan. That's about it for that.
About the website, the legacyproject75.com. On there, earlier we heard about the Jai parties and stuff. Any kind of events you decide to do, hashtag the Legacy Project, hashtag your Jai party, and the organisation, British Pakistan Foundation, will try and put them online, share them on social media for you as well. Try and get more people to come to your event, but also to engage everyone so they learn more about the projects as well. And if they list your event, if you let them know in advance and they list your event, there's also a filter on the website where, you know, if you put the city where it's going to be, you can filter the city and find out what's going on in your area. So we'll try and help you reach a wider audience. Now, we're going to be joined on stage by 𝐼𝐬𝐻 Zaidi, who's going to tell us about the role of British Pakistani charities in bringing communities together. Now, 𝐼𝐬𝐻 has worked in the financial services industry for close to 40 years in Hong Kong, New York, London, and of course, Pakistan. He's also the former CEO and director of HBL UK, and of course a member of the executive committee of the Pakistan Society.
Your Excellencies, welcome sir, and ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and Assalamu alaikum. It is such a pleasure to see so many of you joining in on such a warm day to celebrate Pakistan's 75-year journey. And in doing this, to also pay tribute to those who sacrificed so much for the creation of Pakistan. Our prayers and thoughts for their welfare wherever they may be. I'm here to represent the Pakistan Society, which set its roots in the UK in 1951 as a charity. We were blessed to have the late 𝐼𝐻𝐻 address our members when the society was formed. It was also a matter of great pride for the society when His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh, so graciously accepted an invitation to become an honorary patron of the society, a position he held for 68 years until his passing last year. We are also very privileged to have the Pakistan High Commissioner in the UK as our honorary president. Through this entire period, the Society has remained a voluntary organization aligned closely to its overarching purpose, being the fostering of a wider knowledge and appreciation of Pakistan within the United Kingdom. This is reflected in the careful choice of regular events which aims to further a closer understanding of the arts, literature, cultural history, geography and institutions of Pakistan. It draws its membership both from people of traditional British heritage and from members of the very extensive Pakistani diaspora living in the United Kingdom like myself. The Society has continued each year to organize a variety of regular member events. As a not-for-profit organization, the Society carefully or gratefully acknowledges and very much appreciates the generosity offered by the Pakistan High Commission to use a part of its premises to hold many of our events. Throughout my working career, I've been drawn into providing voluntary service to causes that require assistance for the greater good of mankind and are dear to me. Be that as a mentor for young school-going children, volunteering for the London Olympics, raising funds to establish hospitals that provide free, quality health care, or bringing together our community in times of natural disasters. The Legacy Project for which we are gathered here this evening has been structured for specific causes. It is widely recognized that the charity sector is a powerful vehicle for supporting and furthering human endeavor and an instinct to do good, the impact of which is important to society. It creates wider value to members of the public who donate to charity. Research suggests that donating leads to greater happiness and fulfillment. Spending a share of one's income on a deserving cause is a cause is a cause of greater happiness and fulfillment for the donor. According to recent research undertaken by the Pakistan Center on Philanthropy, annual charitable donations by the Pakistani diaspora to causes based in Pakistan and the UK amounts to a combined total of £1.25 billion. This includes cash, in-kind and volunteered time. The average amount given by the Pakistani diaspora in the UK is £1,680 per person in charitable donations per year, with a greater proportion going to Pakistan-based causes than to UK-based causes. The most popular way to give is through monetary donations, with the largest amount coming from zakat as a fulfillment of religious obligations, and the least from time volunteered in Pakistan. Giving to UK-based causes largely targets the disadvantaged and disabled people, while health and education are preferred for Pakistan-based causes. Face-to-face approaches appear to be the most effective way to solicit donations, most of which occurs through mosques on Fridays. In addition, schools and hospitals are the most favored recipients in Pakistan. The most popular motivation for giving was to help other people in need. And over 85% reported this as a motivation for giving. The second most popular motivation is related to fulfilling religious obligations. This perhaps accounts for the extent of zakat-related donations. Another interesting fact is that members of the Pakistani diaspora aged 25 to 44 are the most likely to give, particularly to causes in both the UK and Pakistan. These age groups represent the working age population and are expected to remain connected with Pakistan. They are also more likely to participate in diaspora community activities. On the other hand, older age groups, 55 plus, are the least likely to give, and when they do, they prefer to give to Pakistan-based causes. With over 2,000 registered charities operating in the UK, raising funds directed for noble causes in Pakistan, you can see the passion and generosity of our community when it comes to helping those in need back home. But we also need to start thinking about the less fortunate communities that live in the UK. While there are incredible organizations doing great work, we need to increase accessibility to such programs and make sure that they have the support of their community. Young people, especially those born and brought up in the UK, do not feel as closely connected with Pakistan due to their perceived differences in identity and language spoken. Older members of the diaspora might identify themselves as British Pakistani, whereas younger members of the diaspora seem to have a pan-Islamic identity and might donate to causes in other Muslim countries such as Syria or Yemen. There is much work to be done to fully integrate young people into philanthropic initiatives in Pakistan. In any case, coming back to the Legacy Project, it is so important for all those in the audience today to recognize the need to demonstrate their linkages and contribution as a British Pakistani to this soil. When my son was born some 28 years back, his late grandmother planted a camellia tree in our front garden. It blossoms unimaginably every year, reminding us that we owe a great deal of debt to the society that we live in. So please spread the word to your friends and family of all ages to contribute generously under the Legacy Project towards planting trees for posterity and as a token of our gratitude and link to this country which we've made as our home. In the spirit of giving due recognition of the work that is done by British Pakistanis, a part of the Legacy Project is a program called Our Heroes. This is a program to identify everyday people who have made significant contributions in their chosen fields that has created a noticeable impact in their communities. So this is an open invitation for all across the country to nominate those who stand out in their respective communities. The intention is to put a spotlight on those individuals that do not receive mainstream importance but are true pillars of our community, deserving recognition. The Legacy Project website gives further details on this program, and you are encouraged to visit the website and spread the word amongst your friends and family. With that, I'd like to thank my good friend Asif 𝐸𝐤𝐬𝐬 for bringing us all together, and immense thanks to His Excellency 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 Khan for being so forthcoming in everything that brings out the goodness of the British Pakistani community. Thank you.
Our next speaker is one of the youngest British Pakistani female politicians in the country. Rabia Bhatti is now a college governor for the largest educational institution in Buckinghamshire. There are still many in our community that need our help, and Rabia will tell you how BPF intends to do that through the Legacy Fund.
Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, Assalamu alaikum and welcome. I'm delighted to be with you all here today at the launch of the Legacy Project and hearing from colleagues about the contributions of all the organisations and partners that have come together brings me immense happiness. I'd like to thank you. As the penultimate speaker of tonight's order, I endeavour to keep my remarks short and not keep you in the warmth much longer. But tonight we have spoken at great length about the Legacy Project, and I am honoured and delighted to introduce to you the establishment of the Legacy Fund. The fund is about supporting, empowering and encouraging those who have not been as fortunate on their journey. The challenges that have been felt by our community nationally have ranged from education, unemployment, health, crime, accessibility and many more. And it is for this reason that it is imperative to encourage and empower those champions that seek to actively create opportunities for their communities across the vast political and geographical spectrum. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where the Legacy Fund steps in, a first of its kind fund that will be available to all organisations and individuals working for the benefit of the British Pakistani community. We believe in empowering donors to make a difference. So every time you sponsor a tree or purchase merchandise from the Legacy Project website, you are also supporting the creation and the contribution of the Legacy Fund itself. The aim of the fund will be to provide funding and grants for various projects, including but not limited to activities for the youth, volunteer programs, and the development of communal facilities. It will work towards developing and facilitating projects and initiatives geared towards meeting local community needs by providing structured funding and support. Never before had a fund like this been established for any member of the community to avail and get organisational help from, regardless of their geographic location, political associations or organisations. We hope sincerely that the Legacy Fund will not only facilitate the work that many are already doing in their communities, but that it will grow their efforts and encourage others to come forward with new programmes and projects that cater to the needs of their communities. Ladies and gentlemen, this is truly a project for the people, by the people. Importantly, we hope to sponsor projects not just based on value for money, but for their long-term sustainable contributions to the challenges that we face. On that note, I'm delighted to support the work and the missions of both the Legacy Fund and the Legacy Project, and I look forward to welcoming and working with so many of you in your contributions to make the British Pakistani diaspora a stronger community, collaboratively working together. Many thanks.
Final speaker, Asif 𝐸𝐸𝐬𝐬𝐬, someone who inspires Pakistanis around the world and, like all our speakers, leads by example. Asif is an entrepreneur who founded and eventually sold Eurobus that supplies baked goods to fast food chains, restaurants and supermarkets. Asif's gone on to start a company called South Street Asset Management, providing essential accommodation for students and key workers. He's chairman, of course, of the 𝐏𝐚𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐬 Foundation, which supports marginalised societies worldwide, and chairman of the World Mehrman Foundation. He's also chairman of the British Pakistan Foundation. Asif, join us on stage.
Thank you for that introduction, Your Excellency, Mrs. Muslim, people from the National Trust and the Queen's Green Canopy. Thank you for attending, and thank you, friends. This is going to be quick because I know we're all waiting to get a little cooled down. Look, there were two reasons to establish this Legacy Fund. One was to bring Pakistani NGOs, or British Pakistani NGOs in the UK together. We are much stronger together than by ourselves. So when I had an approach for about 15 or 20 organizations who wanted to do something for the 75th birthday, decided that why don't we all do it together, and I think that's really paid off today, and this is the result. The second point of this whole exercise is to show that we as British Pakistanis today are going to integrate into this community, okay? I believe that there are many successful young people who are not being given the opportunity that they should be because they're all out there on their own. So together, I think if we work together and if we support our community together, I think we have a brilliant opportunity in this wonderful country that's given so much to all of us that I cannot thank them enough. So thank you very much.
So fantastic to see such a full audience. So many people have come out to learn about the Legacy Project and the Legacy Fund, and just a reminder that this is about involving the entire British Pakistani community, whether it's hosting your own chai party, sharing it online, coming out on the 14th of August to wave your Pakistani flags with pride, of course, sponsoring a tree yourself with the family, with friends, in the name of loved one or in your own name, of course, the Our Heroes Project and the Legacy Fund. Finally, to conclude the evening, we're going to present the very first tree to someone who's incredibly special. Mrs. Suraya Anwar is founder of the SOS Village, and this tree is being sponsored by her daughter to honour her work. SOS Village. The SOS Village, if those of you don't know, it supports orphan children without an active parent or guardian, and it provides them with a home, with love, care, education and training for a job. Can I invite His Excellency, the High Commissioner 𝐏𝐚𝐤𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐧 and his wife, Mrs. Khan, to present a certificate representing the first tree.
And at this occasion, when we are so fortunate to have Mrs. Anwar here, I would like to announce that we will donate 10 trees from Pakistan SOS community.
I hope that commitment continues in spreading the word about the Legacy Project and the Legacy Fund and planting a tree. Thank you.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। जैसे कि आप लोगों को मालूम है कि इस साल हम लोग का 75th एनिवर्सरी पाकिस्तान चाइनीज़ मना रहे हैं, तो उस हवाले से पाकिस्तान और यहाँ पर जो बहुत सारी ब्रिटिश पाकिस्तानी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं वो मिल के बहुत सारे प्रोग्राम्स का इनेकाद कर रहे हैं। आज इसी हवाले से हम इकट्ठे हुए हैं यहाँ पर जो ब्रिटिश पाकिस्तान सोसाइटी फाउंडेशन के साथ एक प्रोजेक्ट लॉन्च किया है जिसको हम भी पार्टनर कर रहे हैं।